Hello, it's first Friday of December 2014, and I realized I have a video to make today. So happy first Friday. I hope your November was beautiful, joyful, full of growth and love and everything that you needed to be serving well. Coming into December, this is such a busy time of year for many, many people. And for us up here in the north, it is moving into hibernation time, retreat time, but it never quite feels that way in January or in the beginning of January and in December, at least not in my life. So today I thought what I wanted to talk to you about though is a question that I get asked a lot from people, typically on a one-on-one basis, because my husband and I are we're both artists and we're self-employed artists, and that is how we work. We no longer work for other people except as independent contractors. And people want to know how we do it, how we live with not knowing. And essentially the question always has that underlying question about security. How did we make that leap? How did we make that jump? And so there's a lot to this story. I'm just going to babble a bit of it to you today because I don't think it's for everybody. I'm not going to lie to you there. And that is often what people hear in my response. And how did we do it? Well, we chose to. And also, it was not a choice. I think that we thought when we were younger that we had a choice and we could go a certain way. We could work the jobby jobs and what have you. But both of us realized that we were turning our back on parts of our creative selves that were ultimately true to who we are and true to what we both believe is why we're here, and the work and the service and what we're here to do in this life on this earth. So it's taken us some time to get to that point, and it's certainly taken us time to get to the point where we can say, yeah, wow, we're doing this. And I'm not going to lie, once you get there, it's no less shaky than when you begin. You never know what's going to happen or what could pull the rug. But to be quite honest, that was never any different than any job we ever had either. So I remember being a nurse, and there being nurses that I worked with that will have worked for decades for the same organization, and they'd be there because of the security, because of the retirement plan, because of the healthcare benefits, right? And they would lose their job. Sometimes because they didn't have a educational credential that was now new policy required for the organization to work in the position they were working in. So, and we all hear examples like that all the time. We never know what's going to happen. So part of it was just having the courage and the audacity to say, look, we have got to use our creativity to find a way to create a life and a livelihood, ideally a sustainable livelihood, that is out of the box, that is not the tried and true and trampled path. And so that's what we're doing. And it's not like we have it figured out. It's not like there's a formula that I can give you or anyone else, except that you have to be willing to take risks. You have to, first of all, take the risk of letting go of things to do it. You have to make the space and time in your life. And sometimes you have to let go of things, like for instance, we went for a time without healthcare insurance, and we moved through that. We moved past it, but we had to take that risk to get away from the thing that was sucking the time and energy that we needed to be putting into creating a new life for ourselves. And so you bring a different level of conscientiousness, a different level of awareness into the way that you're living. And a big part of that is choosing to live in a simpler way than what our culture, our consumers' culture often says that we should. Choosing to say, hey, you know what, maybe, the end-all be-all to happiness isn't get married, buy a house, have kids, get the retirement fund, and then do everything you ever wanted to do if you make it to retirement anyway. And so all of those things come up, especially when you grow up in this culture, right? So all of those things came up, and we had to say, well, we're willing to try for something different, and what's that going to be like? The interesting piece, I think, is that the decision to leave behind the sense of a more secure job world to pursue music in the case of my husband, and for me, art and teaching, and developing what art and healing and spirit and teaching will look like as I hold space with others. To leave that behind, to some people, looks very, very impractical. And that's understandable from one point of perspective. But at the same time, I believe that there's also a sense of practicality to it for us, because we have had to get more practical in our life to live a simpler life, really getting to the heart of the question, what is it that we need versus what is it that we want? And then also to really consciously begin a practical relationship with money and the sense of security and the sense of taking risk and building courage muscles, all of that. So it really just depends on how you look at it. I find the interesting piece to me is that we're actually much more practical now, I feel, than we were before when we were working our jobby jobs, as you would call it. So to do what we do, we had to be willing to try new things. We've had to be willing to make mistakes. All of the things that you can imagine have been true. We've had to be willing to ask people, to go way out of our comfort zone, to ask people to see us, to work with us, to allow us, whatever that might be. And in asking, you set yourself up to be seen and to be very vulnerable, to say, hey, this is my art. I believe this is real. I believe this is useful. I believe this has value. And setting yourself up for people to go, yeah, no thanks. And so in that, you also build a resiliency and a deeper commitment and devotion. So in this whole process of being two artists self-employed, it has been absolutely solidifying to our commitment to living our life creatively and creating a sustainable livelihood. And I guess I'm getting a little excited right now because I've not spoken about it quite like this. And so a big piece of that is being willing to share what you do as an artist. If you want to be a self-employed artist, you have to figure out how to work with all the gremlins that come around with sharing, and to find what your rhythm and your pace and where your boundaries are with that. And that has been a huge piece for both of us. You have to be willing and committed to continually learning. So continually learning things that are outside of your comfort zone, outside of your current perspective, and outside of your current knowledge base. We're always learning new things, and being willing to make mistakes. We've both tried things again and again that just haven't worked. And so you get up the next day, you brush off, you do something different, or you do it again, because sometimes it's just timing. But all of it is part of the creative process. So, and on top of that, communication. If you're in a partnership with another artist and you're both trying to do this sustainably and self-employed, communication is key. And we're still learning about how to do that right, but we try, and that's the best. I will also say that in our situation, we don't have children. I mean, we have four-legged children and ducks, and so we're not raising children, and that's a huge piece for a lot of people. For us, that's just not part of our lifestyle at this point. So that's kind of really the truth of it. How do you live week to week, month to month without the security of a paycheck? Well, you just do. And you choose the courage to move with faith. And what I can say about that, which is something I've learned in my life long before I decided to finally take the plunge and see if this could work in this way, is that it's something that was instilled in us as a kid, in my house anyway, is that you will always be provided for what you need. That may not always be what you want, but you will always be provided for what you need in right timing. And so really being open to that, being open to the idea that we may not even know what we need. We may not know that what we get is what we need in the moment, but trusting that it's part of our journey and part of our growth and part of our process. And likewise, trusting that what we don't get is also part of what we need. So for me personally, now I'm speaking for myself, not my husband so much, but this is really a practice in faith and a practice in trust. A practice, to me, faith is not about knowing, and faith is really about not knowing. Faith is about the mystery of the creative process, the mystery of life itself, the mystery of how things in the universe and in nature seek to harmonize. So that is our journey, and it's still in process. We don't know how it's going to turn out. I mean, what is turn out anyway? We're just in it, this moment, one moment at a time. And I know we couldn't feel more blessed. But yeah, so that's my thoughts on how do you do it? How do we do it? There's no formula. I don't know, except that we're willing to take the risk because we're so deeply committed and devoted to the creative process, to what it is we feel we are here to do in our spiritual paths, and to creating our own sense of sustainable livelihood. And that's evolving. It's continually evolving. Our dreams of what that looks like is changing every year. So thank you for listening. I hope some of that was insightful for you. And happy First Friday to you. If you have any thoughts about what's going on in your creative process or in your own sustainable livelihood, in matters of bringing practicality into the seemingly impractical, it's a topic I love. Feel free to leave a comment if you like. And I hope you have a wonderful month.